Welcome to Adjusted Reality, a podcast series trusted by the adjusted and brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, where we learn from athletes, celebrities, influencers, and healthcare professionals about how to optimize health in a fun, relatable way. Join me, Dr. Sherry McAllister, as we welcome the unstoppable force of the DuBois family. Yes, it is. This is going to be an epic episode. We've got Charlie, Jack, and Simone DuBois. They are the dynamic father, son, daughter trio. We're so excited to have them. They are leading the legacy of Standard Process. That is a multi-generational, family-owned nutritional supplement company that has actually changed a lot of things in how people live their lives. For over 90 years, Standard Process has actually built an impeccable reputation on holistic approach to health. Their key values are the person, the product, the process, the planet, and if you can go with me on one more P, posterity. I absolutely love that. So I want to welcome Jack, Charlie, and Simone to Adjusted Reality.
Well, thank you, Sherry. We appreciate it. That's great to be with you.
Well, it's the trio of fun. So we're going to start with you, Charlie, since this
Okay.
has been a long relationship with the Adjusted Reality movement and trying to really foster a whole being care approach. And I want to start at the very beginning. So you've been with Standard Process, if not your whole life, nearly your whole life. I think it's your whole life. And you started
Pretty
out,
much.
I love the fact that the intro to you is going to start with you hand weeding the beet fields, because I love that. It's like getting really down to the dirt. We're getting really dirty now. We're going to the beet fields. We're looking at now where you have eventually become the president and the CEO. So this is quite the journey for you. Share a little bit about what it was like to grow up within this company and now lead this next generation.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, that started about, I don't know, 42 years ago for me. Just outside of high school, started working for the company as a part-time summer job. And like you said, my first job was hand weeding the beet fields. So you could say I started from the ground up, bump, bump, bump,
I
right?
love that.
I mean, little pun there. Um, but it's always, if I look at it, it's always been such a great place to start in this company because I got a really good understanding of where the products start and everything starts and begins. And that's with the raw materials and with the farm. And so there's something special about that. When there's so many other supplement companies out there that don't have farms, don't start by making their own raw materials. Standard Process is really special. So that's how it kind of started with me. And then I decided that that was hard work, working in the fields all day and stuff like that. So proceeded to finish my career as an electrical engineer and joined the company full time, just working in the manufacturing and understanding the processes and improving on all those things and how we make these products even better every day. And then in 1995, became president after my father passed away, and took over for him. And I'm third generation running the business, and it's just been wonderful ever since. I always say I think I have the best job in the world, and I truly believe that. And then in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, it's been really a thrill to get the fourth generation involved in the business, because all the hard work and everything is gonna finally pay off to pass it on to even another generation. So that's the most exciting thing.
That's kind of the coolest thing entering into the fourth generation, because now you're seeing the alignment of values. And in what we do with the Adjusted Reality, it's really alignment of lifestyle and creating this kind of whole being optimization. And what I think back to is starting as a chiropractor of what I wanted my patients to have. It really was drug first option avoidance as much as possible so that they could optimize their health. So we're trying to get that prevention side and then move into the optimization side. And I love one of the quotes that I heard recently. It was like, from farm to bottle. And I think that encapsulates what
Another good one.
see another good one from the ground up. It really does articulate how Standard Process has spent so much time and talent and wisdom in bringing forth the raw materials that really are organic. And I want to bring in Jack and Simone because as the fourth generation, I want to start with Simone. This now leads you to a place where you can see a better world, knowing that your product is from a raw ingredient and you're not doing what many manufacturers do, which is adding fillers and all the other things. Tell me, Simone, starting with you, why did you join Standard Process? And then as you see the process of helping people live better lives, what is it about Standard Process that made it so different for you as a family generation owned company?
So my journey with Standard Process started when I was a little kid, and Jack can attest to this as well. And we would have chewable conjuplex in our raspberries, and we also just ate them because we thought that they tasted like candy, our healthy candies. So I had the exposure to the supplements when I was a kid, but didn't really understand the value that they brought to my life. I received my first chiropractic adjustment in second grade and absolutely was fascinated by chiropractic. As I went through school, always wanted to become a chiropractor, fell deeper and deeper in love with nutrition, saw the impact of nutrition on my own life and my own health throughout growing up. And when I graduated with a degree in integrated healthcare, I really wanted to learn more about the business. So I started working in the business right out of school, and I didn't start on the farm, but I started in manufacturing. And I got to actually see how the product was made. And it was seeing how the product was made and seeing how in love with the product and the values and the business our own employees were, as well as then our customers, the chiropractors, and learning all the stories about how lives were being changed and just miraculous stories about people's health turning around. And seeing the process, the care that went into it, the cleanliness of the facility, the intricate attention to detail, and just the love that everyone was pouring into making these products that made me decide this is what I want to do with my life. And I can't think of a better way to spend my career and spend my life than working with my family, working with the family here at Standard Process, and just working for a higher purpose and a greater mission to really make a difference in people's lives.
That's beautiful. It really, Simone, you really captured why I think your dad says, this is the best job ever. And technically, I would say I don't think it's a job. Actually, I think it's a calling. I think Standard Process called you into this process. The next is Jack, and Jack, I know you are just as excited about being in this realm because you see the world changing. And now I think more than ever, people are opening up their minds, their hearts, and their wallets to say, I want to prevent problems. Tell me from your perspective, coming into this business of health, what have you seen really change over the years? And what stimulates you to keep pushing forward?
Mm. Yeah, that's great. I'll probably combine that one with the last question that you'd asked as well. Um, yeah, it's really great. I think right now is the time's really changing, right? And we have a history, of Standard Process where we've always been preaching this food is medicine philosophy, right? And this whole food philosophy that really starts in the soil. And that's been our philosophy since day one. It's what Dr. Roy Lee established, and it's what the chiropractic industry really related to about our company and why we've been partnering with chiropractors forever, is because they really love that food first approach. And so I think now you're hearing it on the news, right? All these influencers are talking about, food is medicine, and it's something that we've been doing forever. And so I do want to mention just one of the stories from when I first got started with Standard Process. And I think growing up as a kid, I always wanted to be like my dad, right? So I always wanted to, grow up in the business and someday, be like him and run the business. And I started right out of high school working on the farm as well. And I just fell in love with regenerative agriculture and the different way that we really took to farming and cultivating these organic crops. And one of the things that we love to do at Standard Process is bring practitioners out to our farm to visit us and do tours and things like that. And so we had, I started giving tours shortly after starting on the farm. And we had a practitioner from Michigan, actually, a chiropractor, came out, and he brought his whole clinic with him. And we gave him a tour, and we had lunch. And later that night, we actually were having dinner. And I was sitting next to another individual that worked in his office. And she was telling me about, her health journey and how she had actually really struggled with her health and multiple diseases. And one of the things that she had said is, I went everywhere and to every practitioner, I took all different supplements and things like that. And I really had no other options. I had no other choices and until, finding this chiropractor who used a lot of Standard Process nutrition. It really turned her life around. And so that I remember that story very early on for me. It flipped a little bit of a switch, right? I always wanted to be like my dad. I love Standard Process. I love the regenerative agriculture, but I never fully understood the fullness of what we do at Standard Process until the practitioners would come out and start to tell me the impacts that they were having on patients' lives. And when you start to hear those first person stories and testimonials, that's when everything kind of changes. And I think it goes from a job to a calling. So that's really what sucked me into Standard Process. And it really was the practitioners and their stories of what they do with our products that really made me fall in love with the company.
This is an exciting time for us because the media is starting to recognize that there isn't a pill for every ill, and that the first choice should always be to be as holistic and really look at adverse events that come with the choices that we make and the agency that we have. We have a real responsibility to choose wisely. And you mentioned regenerative and bringing that into the farming aspect. People listening today are doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have. Share with them why certain opportunities come to Standard Process and the quality. What are some of the things they need to know when they're looking at the vitamin section and think, I don't know even where to begin? And what is this regenerative farming that Jack is talking about? Because clearly he's passionate about it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, consumers in general, I think have to have a basic understanding of where their food comes from, right? And farming in general, right? And so to sum it up in really simple terms, one of the things I always like to say, and one of the things that was really eye-opening to me when I first started learning about regenerative agriculture and what we did is there has never been an incentive in the agricultural industry to grow or breed or develop a crop with higher nutritional value, right? And so you think about that and you're like, wait, I get that we're not supposed to eat ultra processed foods, and I get that vegetables are important and things like that. And I get it's important to eat organic, but no crop in hundreds and hundreds of years of breeding and developing has ever been developed for a higher nutrient value, right? And so the whole industry has been, it's a big business too. And so the whole business has been to develop and grow more profitable crops, right? And so really growing and developing crops for higher yield and not nutritional density. And so really what we've seen is an industry where we've got really high yielding crops that don't have the same nutritional value as the ancient varieties. And when you look back, the current crops that we're eating are a fraction of the nutritional density that we used to have. And so when you consider that 60 to 70% of the American diet is ultra processed foods, and then what the agricultural industry has done to the 30 to 40% that might be whole foods has really degraded it. And so I think first and foremost, it's realizing that there is really no incentive out there to grow a crop with higher nutrient value. And so the difference between, regenerative agriculture and what we do at Standard Process is actually putting the nutritional value first. And so selecting crops with a higher nutrient density, going back to some of those ancient crops like our ancient oats that have a lot higher protein and a lot higher nutritional density. And that is really what it's all about, is getting back to really promoting that nutritional density. So what I would say in general is make sure that you know where your food's coming from, right? You build developments and relationships with local farmers, right? And you know where you know that the crops that you're getting are of a higher nutritional density and are organic.
It is, the organic world is where most of us really want to put our time and our financial investment in, because I was at dinner last night and I happened to be in Des Moines, Iowa, and the server that I had said something. He was a young man, he was 22 years old, and he said something that stopped me in my tracks. And I love this generation because they're asking good questions. And he said, you know, a lot of cancer probably comes from the Roundup that we spray on our product. And I thought, for a 23-year-old, that's really wise. Because he asked me, well, you know, what do I do for a living? I said, there's so many things I'd like to share with you, but I'll start with, I'm an author. And one of the chapters in the book is on nourishment. And it starts really about our dirt. You know, what are we doing to cultivate a better world, a more organic opportunity? So when he came out with that comment, I thought, you know, it's very bright. I'm going to jump to you, Simone. The next thing that came out of his mouth was, he talked about, if it's about the process of how we take care of our agriculture, he said, I drink lots of vitamin water. What do you think of that? And I said, you know, I'm glad that you asked that question, because there's some fundamental things that you need to know. Oftentimes we're taking these vitamin drinks, these boosters, but where does the vitamin actually come from? And how's that vitamin really doing you any good? And that's the question that I really think is important, because if you're drinking 3 or 4 or 5, like, you know, some of the university students will have like 4 or 5 Red Bulls a day, and they wonder why they're having problems sleeping. Simone, what's your thought in today's world on the vitamins that are out there, especially as they're put into these drinks? And then what message would you give this younger generation when they're looking at trying to prevent problems from happening?
So my opinion on this and my stance on this is food first. And when you can't consume enough nutrition from your food alone, that's where supplementation comes in. And as Jack just talked about, nutrient density and depleted soil, a lot of our food doesn't have that nutritional value in it that it did 100 years ago. So food always first. Then when you go towards supplementation, looking at whole food supplementation, because our bodies were not made to consume excessive amounts of synthetic and isolated vitamins, because our bodies chemically process nutrition with all of the phytonutrient cofactors, the biochemical cofactors and coenzymes that come in the whole food. So a lot of these, we don't even know what they are and haven't been discovered, and are consistently discovered over time with further research into whole food nutrition. So when you take an isolated vitamin or an isolated mineral, you're not getting all of those other components in it that help your body utilize that vitamin. So you may take a super high dose of vitamin C or ascorbic acid, which really isn't vitamin C, but your body doesn't actually know how to adequately process that, and it doesn't utilize it to its maximum potential. Whereas if you ate foods that were very rich in vitamin C or took a supplement that came in a whole food complex of vitamin C, then you're getting all of those other cofactors that your body utilizes, your body knows, your body recognizes in order to better utilize the function of that vitamin and mineral.
Well, and I think with the drinks, it's just a matter of drink water. Drink good spring water. There's a lot of good companies out there that have good spring water, and you don't need to boost water with all sorts of synthetics. That's the absolute opposite of what you really want to do. So drink good spring water. And about
No.
all those other things, do not drink those other things.
So,
Period.
so
I mean, it's
Kelly,
that easy.
what makes me smile as you say that is, you know, Jack comes on, I turn on the camera, and I'm like, wow, Jack, you're drinking a Heineken.
Yeah.
It's a
That's a
little
big
old, but here
Heineken.
we go. So, the beauty of it, Jack, hold that drink up, is I said, what is it? He goes, what is it, Jack? Tell our audience.
It's the Mountain Valley spring water. We're not sponsored by them, but it's my favorite water, and it's packaged in glass too, so you don't have to worry about the BPA's and the plastics and all that.
Doesn't
But yeah,
that make you
natural spring
smile?
water with all the vitamins and minerals already in it.
It's, Charlie, he said he wanted to be like his dad. I mean, before he even opened the podcast, he's being like his dad. He literally listens to you. And that, I think, is one of the most beautiful parts of being a parent, is you get to watch your children grow, prosper, and then see them just become even better than ourselves, which is such a delightful thing. And since we have you as the current president, I want to go through the beauty of standard processes, company values, because I think this is where a lot of our companies need to share with consumers so they're aware that it's more than a business. It's more than the financial bottom line, and that comes with the person. You start with standard process. It's the person that is really behind the mission. Share a little bit about those the pieces that make the job that you do so fulfilling.
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate as I grew up to have two loving parents that always, instilled in me to treat others the right way, to always be respectful of others and to care. Just plain and simple, love and care. And so when, when that is like beat into you as a child, right? Um, that's who you become. And I think in business and everything else, that's become the culture here at Standard Process. It's a very caring culture. We're a family, and we do things like we have our own on-site daycare to take care of our employees' families, to take care of those kids. So while they're at work, they don't have to worry about the safety, the education, and the fact that they're eating healthy in a daycare, in a learning center. So just simple things like that, all the different benefits that we offer and everything else for our employees. Again, a wonderful way to have a career at Standard Process. And it all started with my parents. It all started with them really teaching me good values and good integrity. And you can never go wrong with that. And when, somebody's hurting within our Standard Process family, whether they had a house fire or there was a bad accident or something like that, you see all the employees pull together and give out of their own pocket to help other employees. And, at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. And then you add in as well the products that we make and these products that literally change people's lives. And Jack mentioned that with our doctors, hearing stories and stories and stories about how these products literally change people's lives, and knowing that, we're not just making a chair. I mean, we all need chairs and everybody sits on a chair, but it doesn't do anything to change somebody's life in such a dramatic way that our products do. So offering these wonderful products and the fact that our employees being treated well, loving what they do, really caring for others, now putting all that energy into the energy of these products is really a wonderful thing for those end consumers who are taking them. So this culture of Standard Process has just kind of evolved, but it's really about a caring, loving culture, and we actually, you know, well, I won't swear, but I was gonna say we actually give a shit. We actually really care about people and about this environment, and and that's the way to go.
It's one thing to vote with your money when you go to a grocery store and you're buying products. It's another to know that the company that you're voting for as you pay at the cash register, that the company has the values that you want to see grow in the world, because a lot of what's happening in the world is turmoil because we're in change, and change creates a little bit of chaos as we move through it. And knowing that the product there is excellence in how that product is created, and that there's people that are serving and uplifting and solving real needs in today's marketplace. Simone, I'm going to throw the next one over to you. Is there's stewardship in everything that we do in our environment and in our own lives. In every decision that we make impacts how the world is going to work. We just think that we're making a small decision, but it's a microcosm of all the decisions we make, and that becomes our reality. From your perspective, as standard process continues to grow and flourish, what are some of the things that you love to see, and maybe even a story of how you've seen it change since you were young to where you are today?
That's a great question. The biggest change that I've seen since I was young is really the growth in size of the community of people that work at Standard Process, the practitioners that utilize their products, and the lives that are changed. And with that growth, just the intention and the message around what it is that we're doing, seeing more people catch on to that, more people interested in that. Um, to jump to your comment around stewardship, my dad has always said, which when I was younger I didn't understand, that yes, he runs the business, he's the president, he's a CEO, but he's really just a steward of the mission. He's just carrying on the mission. And I've really taken that to heart, and I know Jack has as well, in how we show up at the business and how we lead with love and how we lead with intention for others and care for others. And this concept around stewardship, when we do something not to benefit ourselves but to benefit others, I think it has a greater impact of the world. When we act out of a place of consideration for how something's going to impact someone else's lives, someone else's feelings, someone else's health, the environment. And throughout my time at Standard Process, I've seen everyone who works here be more and more considerate of all of those things. I love when an employee who comes from a very different industry comes into Standard Process. Every once in a while, we'll have individuals from the pharmaceutical industry that'll come into Standard Process, and to see their mind expand on what we do and them gain this excitement and this better understanding of whole food nutrition, of what they're putting in their own bodies, what they're feeding their families, and see them get excited, that's really exciting to me. And as I've been working at Standard Process, I've seen the world and I've seen our community wake up more and grow more with their mindset around health. And I think that's really cool. The world is more interested right now in whole foods, in being healthy and what healthy means, in whole person, whole health. And that's really exciting to me.
The posterity portion of a legacy is really built intentionally. And Simone, you captured that so beautifully. As we're intentional now, more now than ever, I think, as we get away from ultra processed foods and understand the impact that it's having, from the dyes to the chemical preservatives to what makes that product actually shelf life ready, which is frightening in and of itself. And it does have a moment of reflection for all of us to say, what can I do better, have better, and be better on a daily basis? What are those pieces? But legacy has to be built intentionally. And Charlie, I think you have done a brilliant part to this. Is my mom would always say, and it happens to be her birthday, her heavenly birthday today, she'd say, always, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. So you can look at the fruit that surrounds you, which is Simone and Jack, and I hope that you see how beautiful it is to see that it's built through intention and in the beauty of what family really means. But from your perspective, what we do today will impact the future generations. Share with me a little bit about the past, because I think as we carefully craft and understand the past, it builds our present, but ultimately it will build our future. What are some of the things that you learned, or the story or stories that really created how you felt about where you are now and how you want to build the future?
Yeah, I think it's always one of those things where, being third generation and taking over a third generation family business, you do look back and you look at what our founder, my great uncle, Dr. Royal Lee, started and why he started that. He started it for his family. He started creating these products to help his mother get through a health crisis. And so, just that alone, how to start this incredible company with that intention, just says it all. I mean, and so when I go back and I look at all the things that Dr. Lee was doing, and he was so innovative and he was so far ahead of his time in talking about all the ultra processed food and the things that were happening back in the 1920s to our food sources. And you think about that today, and it's so much worse. But as Dr. Lee saw what was happening within these food companies and what we were consuming, all these empty calories, it really hits hard to try to understand, where can we go with this? And it really comes down to what God intended and what nature intended us would be to consume nutrients from whole foods, period. It's that simple. So this foundation of having our products start on our own company-owned farms and being able to constantly innovate, constantly make sure that we're improving. We're improving our seed quality with heirloom seeds that have been almost forgotten over time to, look at all of our organic and regenerative farming practices that have been abandoned for chemical farming throughout the years. And what is all those chemicals that they put on these crops doing to our bodies, doing to our health? We're a nation that is ingesting so many chemicals from every source, pollutants and everything else. And the last thing we need to do is ingest more of that from our food. So it's so important to get away from taking in more and more chemicals. And so having nutrients in food that is grown organically is just absolutely critical. And then once you have these incredible raw materials, now you have to process them or take care of them in such a way to keep that integrity of the food intact and have it in a stable form that you can consume that will last years. And so we've done that with our whole food supplements. And even going back to the 20s, Dr. Lee saw that how he could make these concentrated food supplements so that if somebody wasn't eating the right foods, wasn't getting enough of the right nutrients, they could supplement their diet with a concentrated food supplement. And so some of those principles throughout the years really haven't changed, but they've been so forgotten by the industries, by the food industry, by the farming industry. And I always say we didn't, invent that, but we kind of came back to that. And we never let, the chemical and the quick farming and all those things kind of just, we never jumped on that bandwagon. We stayed with what was true and what was real. And I think those principles, as we continue to carry those forward in the future, will never fail us. Because if you're talking about the truth, if you're going back to what nature truly intended us to consume and to eat, you can't go wrong that way.
That's the beauty. You said you can't go wrong that way. And Jack, I'm going to throw this one over to you because when you're young, you think fast and busy and you're doing your best to get the most packed into one day. And I have seen the youth of this nation say, you know what, I don't need to sleep. I barely need to eat. I just need to go, 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 go. I get it. However, we do need to recognize that the industries, the big ag and the big farm, they have a way to which they can advertise and tell you, for example, you have a pain many years back, it was, well, take an opiate. They didn't recognize the intensity of the choices they were making, which could create a severe addiction. And that addiction will lead you to find other ways to deal with your pain if you can't get a prescription. And that is really detrimental to our current system is chronic pain. And now we're starting to see the journals come out and say we have more chronic pain, but we have less suicide. Well, I'm like, well, this is a very depressing place to be. Now, Jack, what I'm going to ask you is if you're talking to the youth of today that are listening, the young Gen Zers, the millennials, the Generation Alpha, what are some of the things that you really want them to open their eyes to when they go into the grocery store?
Yeah, I mean, reading labels, right? And seeing can you pronounce everything on the back of the labels, but I really, beyond that, like what I was thinking as you were asking that question is getting back to that like intuitive nature and the intuitive knowing, right? And seeking food that way. I think so many processed foods and things in the grocery store have kind of hijacked our taste buds, right? But we really do know what is good for us at the end of the day. And I think that's the biggest thing that, young people on the road, I live that lifestyle too, and it's challenging sometimes, right? It seems like, every store, every quick option is an ultra processed food. And it's, I think, really just getting back to that intentionality and really just thinking about, is this food either going to help me feed my body or is it going to hurt me, right? And that's where, most of the foods out there are harmful, right? And so, as I think just thinking about it more, right? As a young person, right? We're on the go, we're so busy, and it's whatever's quick and convenient. But if we really just think about, what's in that product, looking for clean label on the go snacks and things like that. There's clean label protein bars out there. There's clean label protein drinks out there. And those are a lot better than stopping at McDonald's or grabbing on the go food. So I think just getting back to that intuitive nature, though, and encouraging young adults to just bring the common sense back into the way that they're eating, because a lot of times we are just so busy and we forget to think about it. So that's what I would advise for the young adults out there.
Jack, that statement is so beautiful, but common sense often is not common. And so I love that adjusted reality brings back the reality that you do need to adjust. You need to have a fundamental understanding of we all are not perfect quite yet. In fact, there's a lot to say about perfection. And the now moment of creating a lifestyle with intention and being able to see when you're out of balance and who and what would you do if you're out of balance. Simone, I'm going to kick this over to you. Balance is key. Particularly our females in our lives are the nurturers typically, and that's a generalization, but they nurture and they network. That's a very important part of how they build their families around them and take care of their friends and family. 67% often make healthcare choices for their family. Simone, what would you say in the nurturing perspective of keeping balance? What would that look like? And is there a healthcare provider that you think helps really take someone on a journey to find balance again?
I think chiropractors are a great healthcare provider that really, really help with balance. I mean, you look at how they rebalance your nervous system or they bring your nervous system back to balance. They make recommendations for you and your lifestyle to find that balance. For the women out there who are trying to find that balance for their families, we we all are faced with times in our lives where we can't make the healthiest decision, or where we get wrapped up in the holidays, or we get wrapped up on vacation, and we kind of fall a bit out of balance. For me, I always go back to any step is a good step in the right direction. And when you fall out of balance, we don't have to go back to boiling the ocean of, okay, I'm going to go on this diet and I'm going to cut all of this stuff out of my life. I'm going to stop with this and this and this, and I'm going to work out every day for the next 6 months. But just take one of those steps. Maybe you drink a little extra water that day and you get your water back on track. And then you get your diet back on track. And then you cut out the sugar a little bit here. And then you go and you get adjusted. And you slowly bring the balance back into your life.
It's critical as we move forward, and I'm going to ask each of you to kind of wrap this up. But before I do that, Charlie, you have been a magnificent force in being able to get people to understand the big picture. It's not about one thing, it's about all things coming together and focusing on nourishment is a huge part of how we live our lives and how we have clarity and consistency in it. But on a big picture level, as you talked about growing the raw ingredients, being in a certified organic farm, and then being able to manage that manufacturing, purposefully aiming for minimal processing. As you live your life, how do you reflect? Because I know you're on the go 24/7, and it's rare that I would ever catch you on any given day in the same state. If I was to call and reach out to you, what are some things that really have changed your life and really put you back more in balance and helped you see the bigger 60,000-foot view versus being that young man who was hand weeding in the beet farm?
Yeah, I think, so many times it comes back to you have to recharge. You have to figure out mentally how to be okay with being stressed. I mean, stress isn't bad as long as you know how to recover from it. And so I think it's even, healthy over times to be in those kind of tough situations, to challenge yourself and to face those challenges, because if you never face those challenges and all of a sudden you do face them, it's going to be really tough to handle. So, I just think that constantly, going and everything else, but I do recharge, Sherry. In fact, this morning I was recharging out in the tree, with a little hunting and stuff, and just bringing that mindfulness and everything back to, a little bit of just meditation and just thinking and being out there in nature and everything else. So things can be really hectic and things can be really on the go, but I think you got to figure out what it means for yourself to recharge and to take a step back and just say, you know what, this is what's important in life. So many times it's interesting over the years. People will ask me, well, what's your leadership style? How do you lead? And what would you say has been successful over the years? And I think it's really simple. I just say, I lead from the heart. And I think right then and there, just being able to say, you lead from the heart, you care about things, and you always have that what's really important and what makes a difference in the long run.
Well said. It goes back to my famous saying is you grow through what you go through. And oftentimes I don't want to grow. I just want to stay where I'm at. I'm comfortable, but I also know that stress. And I see Simone and Jack. I see how fast they're growing, and it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to see them growing, even though I know that this is not easy, but it's not, anything worth having is not easy. And as I say that, I want to just wrap this up with each of you giving me, if there's one thing to take away for our listeners today in this conversation, which has really been extraordinary. And the DuBois family has done a magnificent job of bringing whole back into whole being. Is what's that one thing that you want the listeners to take away from this conversation and that can really help get their life back on track? Jack, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest things I see right now, and you kind of touched on it with the advertising piece, right? There's so many nutritional supplements being advertised, whether it's you're scrolling on Instagram, oh, this product will save your life. Oh, this product will, make you Superman. And, those are the things that I would really kind of warn against, right? And really, my advice would be go find a local healthcare professional, go find a local chiropractor, and trust them as the expert to guide you as a consumer through your life, your lifestyle changes, any nutritional supplements, any adjustments. They are really the expert. And I think right now there's just so much advertising where we think we can go out and find the right supplement for us, but there are trained professionals. And those are the people that we work with. And behind that too is look for whole food nutrition when you're looking at a nutritional supplement.
Brilliant. Well said, Jack. Simone, I'm going to take it over to you.
Our journeys toward health are hard, but a life of sickness is so much harder. And I think we have to give ourselves some grace and love ourselves and love the people around us and lean on them when we're struggling. Because our health is one of our greatest assets that we have. And to live a healthy life is such a blessing. And we're all on that same journey in our own ways at our own different stages. So find those people that you can surround yourself with that help you, that love you through it, and give yourself some grace. Be patient.
It's refreshing to hear that we can bring love back into a conversation and still be alive in business. And I give the last word to the third generation that is building the fourth generation, which will hopefully see the 5, 6, 7, and 8 generation. Charlie, let's give you the last word.
I'll expand a little bit more on what both Jack and Simone said. And I think today we really need to find respect for others. I think we've gotten away from that. Society today is all about me, me, me. And we need to look at how we can not only respect each other, but how we can love other people. And I think as we make decisions and we, choose certain things in life, if we always respect others and have love for others, I think we're going to make the right decisions.
It is. It's beautiful to see the family growth, the beauty of an intentional business, and the wholesomeness, and I choose that word very carefully, the wholesomeness that today's society needs, wants, and desires. And for that, I want to sincerely thank all three of you, because I know it was not easy to get this family together. You're all over, and the beauty of coming together and really being able to share a message that really resonates. So from the deepest part of the foundation and Adjusted Reality, thank you for all you do and the willingness to share your message, the beauty of it, and the organic intentions that you set in everything you do. So thank you for being on Adjusted Reality.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Well, as always, I want to thank you for tuning in to Adjusted Reality as we spoke to the DuBois family about their incredible journey on advancing holistic, organic, natural nutrition that really does make a difference. These are intentional moments for all of us, from the fact that we can all fall out of balance very quickly to questioning who's going to help us get back in balance. And as the DuBois family, you could see that there was a nice, beautiful balance of being able to support, encourage, and really grow together as a family, making whole food choices that will not only impact their lives, but the lives around them. And as always, you know that this podcast was brought to you by the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, where we know life moves very fast, and we want to make sure that you never miss an episode. So please visit f4cp.org/adjusted reality. You can subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, while you're there, you can pick any one of those logos to download and get your copy of Adjusted Reality. It's there at Walmart and Target and Amazon and Barnes & Nobles. It's wherever you buy your books. And we're also interested in hearing from you. Maybe you'll suggest a specific guest that you want to hear from. You can always send us that guest recommendation. We'd be happy to take it on. Please do not forget to subscribe, share the podcast with friends and families, rate and review. And of course, if you're interested or inspired to learn more about chiropractic or to find a doctor of chiropractic near you, you can visit f4cp.org/find a doctor. If you want to supercharge your whole being, well, our brand new book, Adjusted Reality, comes out on October 14th. You can buy it on Amazon, or you can click the link below in the description of this episode and you can get your copy today. I so very much appreciate you coming on this journey with me. I could not do it without you. You always make my day when I see the reviews that you leave and the emails that you send. So I appreciate you and look forward to checking in with you again soon.